kind of takes me back in time. And my interest in writing, because this is about how to teach writing, began, well, in that period, but also I completed a master's and my specialty was on how to help ISELT candidates, developing teachers, how to get them to help them to write their assignments better. So that's kind of, it's a topic that's close to my heart. So I'm going to share you my PowerPoint now. There we go. All right, so let's start with a question. It's all about writing skills, this webinar. So can you tell me what is the main aim of a writing skills lesson? Type your ideas in the chat, please. What is the main aim of a writing skills lesson? Okay, so we've got good. Communicate a message. Grammar functions. Produce language. Produce logical sentences. Communication. Practice a particular skill. Write down your ideas. Express ideas. People are saying produce or communicate seems to be the main one. Right, so the main thing is to help our students develop the skill of writing. Now, the writing skill comprises several sub-skills, and some are related to accuracy, like editing for spelling and punctuation, and others are related to how we organize and review ideas to make them flow smoothly, and how these are expressed in an appropriate style. So not just grammar and vocabulary, although that might have a supporting function. We're interested in full texts. So next question. Does any writing in a lesson develop students' writing skills? Can you type yes or no in the chat? So does any writing in a lesson develop students' writing skills? Some people saying yes, definitely. Ernesto says, don't think so. Okay, lots of yeses. However, you might be a bit disappointed with this answer. The answer is no. Just because you're writing doesn't mean to say you are actually developing writing skills. We need to think about how we can upgrade students' writing ability during the lesson. So that involves focusing on sub-skills. Now, I'm going to ask you some do's or don'ts regarding writing, okay? Can you please, for each one of them, write do or don't in the chat, all right? So, do or don't, only give writing tasks as homework instead of doing some writing in class. What do you think? Do or don't? Lots of don'ts there. Oh, and Lydia says both are necessary. Right. Yeah. So I think the main thing is that you can give writing classes practice as homework, but don't only do that, right? Because you do need to work with them and as a teacher in the lesson to develop the writing skills. So don't. Next question. In a writing lesson, do or don't? Do you provide a model or example of the writing task? What would you say there? Do or don't? Okay, most of us suggesting do. Great, right? No one's put don't. Yeah. Yes, it's helpful, isn't it? It gives the students an idea of what they should be aiming for in terms of format and layout of the writing task, the kind of language that it contains. Yeah, and the level of formality or informality of the writing relative to the audience. Right, register, says Carmen, exactly, yes. So the answer is do, very good. Next, in a writing lesson, do you guide students through a writing process of brainstorming, editing, or redrafting? Is that worth doing? Totally right. Yeah, someone says, do Lydia working with the students to help them develop these skills of editing, redrafting, and so on. And even brainstorming needs help, right? And you can help them brainstorm with like little support activities, maybe visuals or diagrams. Good. On to the next. So the answer is yes, do. Do or don't? Do we expect students to produce a piece of writing without any errors? Everyone's saying don't almost entirely. And that's totally, yeah, agreeable. I agree with that, yeah. Nobody's perfect. Would you expect people to speak without any errors? No, it's probably not realistic, is it? No. And also, to some extent, they're going to be expressing themselves. So you're concerned with fluency as much as accuracy. Right? Even natives make mistakes, especially with writing. Yeah. And writing is a complex skill, so we can't expect students to be immediately perfect. So the answer is don't. Do or don't? Do we require students to use specific grammar or vocabulary in the writing task? Do or don't? Sometimes people say, sometimes it can be helpful. Most of the time it depends. Oh, this is going fast. It's a way to guide them, says Belinda. Right, so Yeah, I think most people would agree that students might find it helpful, but they shouldn't have to, right? They might find it, you might find it helpful to provide specific grammar, but you shouldn't have to. So the second question would be, do we provide suggestions of words or phrases that students could use in the task? It's a very good idea, says Laura. Yeah. So great. All of us are saying do, almost all of us, just as an example. Yeah. Great. So we can provide vocabulary or useful phrases or expressions that can be useful for them, right? But we offer them as tools. We're not being prescriptive. We're not saying that you definitely must, right? And oh, writing banks, says Fausto, can be useful because they can provide students with a resource to draw on, right? Right, so creativity is an important aspect, says Monica. Agreed. So the answer is yes, do. Do or don't? Should we give students time to edit each other's work? Right, so that promotes collaboration. Yes, that in itself is worth developing. Some students don't like it, right? Maybe it's because maybe they feel exposed and they might be humiliated by, if they're children perhaps, they might be humiliated by their classmates if they do really badly. Fosters the sense of audience, right? Yes, definitely. It takes too much time, says Margarita. Ah. I think I agree that, I mean, it can be difficult to get them to edit each other's work, but it depends also how much work you give them to edit, right? So our answer here would be yes, it's do. Sometimes students say that sometimes the teachers say that if all the students are at the same level, there's not much improvement to be gained by students editing each other's work. But even so, all students have different strengths, right? And so they can usually contribute something to each other's work, some useful feedback. And the nice thing about peer feedback, it's interactive, right? So yeah, they can still learn from their peers, exactly. Next. In a writing lesson, do or don't, have students read their writing out loud at the end of the lesson. Oh, this looks like a mix. Some do's, some don'ts. Huh. Sometimes. Sometimes people say, yeah, no. Sometimes teachers wonder why we say don't, but here's some reasons why not to do this, right? Well, first of all, that students might not be comfortable having their work read out aloud. Another key reason is that if you have maybe 10 students reading their pieces aloud, you're not going to have time for that in a typical lesson, right? So think about timing. It's not the best way to spend maybe an hour of the lesson having students read out their work aloud, right? And maybe only one student is doing anything right as they are reading out their pieces to the class. So what are the other students doing? Right, they're probably staring into space, or if they're children, they're probably misbehaving. Right. Also, reading aloud, is that really a writing skill that you're developing? Not really, no, it's more like pronunciation, isn't it? All right. The kinds of texts we read aloud are actually very small in number. We might read out a poem or a speech, right? But that's really the only time we read something aloud, right? So ask yourself, what would you expect to do with the writing? What would you expect to do with the writing? And most of the times we wouldn't read it in voz alta, as they say. Right? Maria says, but you're developing more than only writing. But actually, in a writing skills lesson, that's what you should be focused on, is the writing skills, more than anything. Okay. So, here are some key concepts, and then we're going to look at two different approaches to doing writing, okay, that you might find useful in your own classes. We should say that all text types are written to communicate a particular message, number one. And number two, to communicate it to somebody. So what we write and how we write depends on who will read our message. Today, I'll be demonstrating two approaches to teaching writing. First, we'll look at the product approach, and secondly, the process approach. And as we do this, I'm going to be giving you some ideas of how you can adapt this to online teaching. Firstly, then, the product approach. I'd like you to look at this letter, please, and in the chat, can you please write your answer to these two questions? First, what does the writer want the reader to do? And why? What does the writer want the reader to do, and why? Right. He wants good. So Salime says that the reader will get the message. Okay, but what's the message? Raoul says wants to change rooms because of the noise. Right. So he wants the reader to act on his message, right? Yeah, and why? Because it's noisy and he can't study. right? Because of his partying roommates. All right, so he's living in what we call in Britain halls of residence at college, and his roomie plays loud music and has friends all round for all-night parties. Right, sounds like university to me. Now, next stage in this product approach that focuses on getting the students to replicate some of the features, the key features of a text. What's useful here is to get the students maybe to label the parts of the text to be able to identify the important sections of the text, and that will help them reproduce their version of it. So I'm going to show you a technique, and it's called Jamboard. It's like a whiteboard, interactive whiteboard online. And what you have to do with this is like label the parts of the letter. Okay, so I'm going to post this into the chat, and I'm going to nominate a person to match the parts. So Montserrat, okay, can you actually do the moving of the parts of the letter? And the rest of us, can you make suggestions in the chat about which parts go together? Is it so for example, the date would be number 2, right? Okay, so Montserrat, could you click through there and try and label the parts for us, and we'll suggest answers. Just stop screen sharing for a second. Okay, let's just have Montserrat do the matching. The rest of us can make suggestions in chat, help her do it. But yeah, subject titles right, dates right, receiver's address good, request for action. So A to C, very good. Letter ending. All right. Very good. I'm just going to stop the screen sharing now so we can go back to the normal thing. And where is my presentation? Right. I'll just show you the answers just so you can confirm. At the end, you'll get a handout with a link to this Jamboard so you can play around with it yourself. So the answers are right. Now, I put 2 stars next to certain parts of the lesson, to the letter. So C, request for action, 2 stars. reason for writing, 2 stars, description of the situation, 2 little asterisks. And the reason is because those are the parts of the letter that require special attention from the writer, right? Because they really carry the message of what Andrew wants the reader to do. So one of the benefits of this product approach to writing is it allows students to evaluate what makes a piece of written communication successful. All right. Sometimes this approach is called the genre approach, and for applied linguists, genre has a special technical definition. It's like a staged, goes in stages, it's goal orientated, and it's a social process, right? It's social because we participate in genres with other people. Goal orientated because we use these genres to get things done. And staged because it usually takes us a few steps to reach our goal. So those key stages in me achieving my goal of getting the reader to change rooms for me would be the reason for writing, description of the situation, and a request for action. Now, outside of linguistics and language studies, you may be familiar with the use of the term genre, and there it usually refers to different types of literature and music and art, okay? So typical film genres would be romantic comedies and westerns and fantasy. Now, to be successful in achieving his goal, Andrew needs to use the right level of formality and politeness. Now here we can use a quiz in Google Forms, another one of the portfolio of tools that Google offers, very useful. And you can make it into a little quiz for your students. All right, so I'll show you the quiz in a minute, but just have a look at these 3 letter openings. Which of these 3 letter openings is formal in style? Which is formal? Can you put that in the chat? Which is formal in style? Yes, dear sir. Quite easy to identify, but sometimes it's not always so easy to identify. Let me show you some examples. Have a go for a minute or 2 at this. So please click through to the Google form and do the little quiz yourself. Okay, click through there. It's a good idea if you put your email in there, because then you can get some feedback. And it's a good way of conserving this activity. All right, so the number 1, which is more formal. Number 2, which of these 3 reasons for writing is formal? And number 3, which of these 3 requests for action is more informal in style than the others? Which of these letter endings is more informal in style than the others? That was number 4. Yeah. Thanks for the contribution there, Orlando. It's a way of engaging students in analysing a text, allowing them to think about writing at the same time. Just give you another minute. We'll move on to the answers. All right, well, time's pressing on, so I'm just going to show you the suggested answers. So number 2, you should have clicked on "I'm writing to complain about." Notice that unlike the second one, there's no contraction. It's typical of more formal writing, so there's no contractions. And number 1 is probably too direct. I want you to help me. Number 3, which of the 3 requests for action is more informal in style than the others? What do you think? Any ideas? Put your ideas in the chat again. Number 2. Number 3, sorry. Someone says more informal. Yes, Maria Virginia is you're right. Again, it's the reason is that it's too direct, really, to be polite. We tend to use more grammar when we're formal, right? So could you please provide me with is more indirect and uses more flowery grammar. And I would be most grateful if you could please. Yes. So notice the presence of these modal verbs as well, to create a sense of indirectness and being tentative. Right. And number 4, which is more informal in style than the others? Going way down to the bottom. Yeah. Yes, it's regards, right? Yours faithfully, yours sincerely. They have slightly different uses depending on whether you know the name of the recipient. But regards, when do we normally find regards? Where in what context? Right, it's usually found in the context of like neutral or informal emails, right? Right, so after we've made students aware of layout and content and register issues, we can move on to the actual writing. Now, it's a good idea to support the writing with a clear rubric. A rubric is like the instructions for the writing task. We often hear that terminology in exams, but it also applies to really any task instruction. And a template. So I can show you with the template here. And a template is a way of making the students sort of follow the layout more faithfully without making them necessarily write exactly what you want them to write. So it allows a certain amount of creativity, but not too much. Okay, so here's a template for you. Now, having done their writing, you can get the students to evaluate their letters with a checklist. So it's important, as we mentioned earlier, to get students invested in self-correcting and reviewing their own work. They can share their versions with a partner. The students use the checklist to see if their partners have used the correct layout and style and content, etc. You complete the checklist on your partner's letter using a tick for yes and a cross for no, right? And those are quite easy to devise in Google Docs. You can just share those in the chat like I've done with you, share the link, or you could just provide a Word document and they can then send the feedback to their partner if you're working online. If you're working in an actual live face-to-face classroom, it's easier. Now, here's a quick review of this product or genre framework. So you've got the lead in or comprehension check, followed by analysis of layout or content. We try to raise awareness of the register, pointing out the style and appropriacy. You get the students to write according to the task rubric, and the template is optional. There's peer evaluation with a checklist, and you can get them to rewrite after that and display. That's where you put up the writing, maybe on the walls or online. There are other ways that you can display the students' writing so that their partners can go read it. All right. Now, let's move on to the process writing framework. Now, do you like Gothic horror stories? If so, if you know about Gothic horror stories, what are the characteristics of the literary genre? Can anyone tell me? Any ideas? What are the characteristics of the Gothic horror stories genre? Veronica, could you please show the checklist again? Yes, I can put that into the handout, no problem. So don't worry about it. There's a handout, yeah, at the end. So if you've missed anything, there's a summary of the different frameworks. Okay, so someone says Stoker, yes, they are a bit scary. The romance involved scary, but with history. Well, yes, often located in maybe Eastern Europe, in the case of Dracula, in the 19th century, suspense, thriller. Good. Oops. So the task here is to write a horror story following the 19th century Gothic genre. All right. Now, already you can see that this is going to be a bit more creative than the previous task that we looked at. But we're still restricting the students somewhat because they have to write it within 180 to 250 words. And it has to be from the first person perspective of a witness to the events, right? So let's look at the process approach. The first thing is a lead in to get them interested in Gothic horror stories, the topic. Have I got you interested? Are you familiar with any of these writers apart from Bram Stoker? H.P. Lovecraft. He was the he's quite dark, some of his stories, but that's a bit similar to Stranger Things. You know that Netflix series? All right. Frankenstein says, yeah, Lydia. That's right. That was Mary Shelley. So you're thinking about the right things. Now, important thing is to brainstorm some vocabulary. And here we have another Jamboard. This time we're using the Post-its, and students have to like add to the Post-its with words related to this theme of Gothic horror. So for example, characters, we typically have a doomed bride, or damsels in distress, we have a woman in white, supernatural beings, and then we have nouns such as omens and portents, and visions and prophecies. We've got adverbs such as spine-chillingly, icily, adjectives such as gloomy and decaying, verbs such as poison and curse. Right. So I can, I'll share with you. We're kind of pressed for time a little bit, so I'm going to give you the link to this Jamboard yourself, so that you can play around with it after the session, and that will be in the handout. So the first thing, well, third thing with the process writing approach is to get the students to plan the different stages of a Gothic horror story, and you can provide a skeleton plot for the students. Right? Now, as a teacher, when you're planning the lesson, it's important to have a clear idea of what the students are going to produce, or what the learners are going to produce. So simply telling a story, for example, is too broad a description of the genre's purpose, right? So conversational stories, if you're thinking of stories, about at least 4 different genres, subgenres of stories, right? You can think of narratives, anecdotes, exemplums, and recounts, and each one has a different sort of staging or different steps that the story goes through. So, for example, Gothic stories, Gothic horror stories, there's usually an introduction of the setting and the characters, then create an atmosphere of gloom and suspense, incorporate the theme of madness. For For example, Dracula's assistant goes crazy in that novel. Then there's killing off the characters, and usually there's a twist at the end, right? Now you get students to write 2 or 3 rough sentences per stage in Google Docs, right? And then, so you might have something like this. David, a British lawyer, contracted by a Transylvanian count, shadowy, shape-shifting figure. He goes to Transylvania to put in order the count's legal matters, and he realizes he's being held hostage in the castle. Right, notice these are just draft sentences. It's a dark and stormy night. The castle is atop a lonely forested peak. Wolves howling in the valley below. Oh, right. So then there's the theme of madness. The vampire kills David the lawyer, who immediately revives, goes insane, and hurls himself into the river far below. But he survives in an undead state, a bit like a zombie. Kill off the characters. Delirious David takes refuge in a nunnery in town with his terrified fiancée. The vampire count tricks David into inviting him in. He proceeds to slaughter all the nuns and finishes off the undead lawyer with a stake into his heart. Then, conclude with a twist. Maria becomes the bride of the vampire. They both prepare coffins and they set sail to Whitby, which is a coastal town in England, for their honeymoon. Then they wander eternally through the netherworld between life and death. All right. So, having produce these rough sentences, then you get them to write paragraphs, right? And this is the draft. All right. Let's just see if anyone's writing any questions. So, as you can see, this exercise, part 4, makes students form coherent links between the sentences. Now, after the first draft, we need to help students develop the skill of editing and writing. So we've got some paragraphs. This is helping them to develop a sense of cohesive, coherent ideas in the story. Editing is where we develop getting them to improve their writing, trying to get them to upgrade their writing. So while the students are writing, you can ask one of them if you can use their first draft. If it's a student that doesn't mind having their work shown off to the class, you put this in Google Docs, but you maybe keep it anonymous, and perhaps, well, you share the writing with screen share if you're on Zoom, and maybe you can elicit some improvements from the students. Or you can ask the students to write their first draft for homework and then get them to send you the work by email. You can use a correction code using track changes tool in Microsoft Word to comment about the language errors. And students can either accept or reject the amendments that you or the fellow student has suggested. At the end of the piece, you could write comments about the content, the ideas. Were the ideas good? Did it make logical sense? The organization. You could follow up with some one-to-one counseling to indicate parts of the text that need improvement. Another tool you could consider using is Cambridge's Write and Improve. This gives practice to students in editing and correcting. It's free for students to use, and it has a whole set of tasks for different levels. The student chooses a task and types their answer into the gap, into the space in the website. The site then tells them when they've written enough text, and then they click on check to get some feedback. The feedback highlights the text to guide the students to make improvements, and they can rewrite as many times as you let them. Anyone tried Write and Improve? What's your experience been like? Yeah, immediate response. Right, it takes a couple of seconds to process it, but it's fast. Sylvia Garcia says you had to pay. That hasn't been my experience. Have you used it a lot? Maybe it makes you pay after a while. I didn't really find the feedback here wasn't amazingly detailed. I think it works better if you choose the task that Cambridge has chosen, right? Because it's then configured to give a more specialized and detailed feedback. As you can see in my writing starts off all right, but gets worse down at the bottom. Right? They've noted some like misuse of prepositions or omission of prepositions at the bottom. He finished off the undead lawyer with a stake, with stake to heart. Oh, sorry, it's not prepositions, it's articles, right? With a stake to the heart. Right? So it's mainly positive experiences there with Write and Improve. Now, there are different ways as well that you can display. It's a good idea to display students' work. As in the real classroom, you want students to appreciate that it's a piece of communication with an audience. We can encourage students to look at each other's work and give advice and make suggestions about how it can be improved. You can do this via, I've used Blogger, which is a type of blog. The advantage there is that students then can write appraisals on the writing at the end. They can put little comments. But you need to say about what are the criteria for, what's the criteria for evaluating each other's work. Some people say that Edmodo is better for security. There are no external visitors to get into your community without an invite. So here the advantage is that students become their colleagues' audience and sometimes their evaluators. Anyone tried either of those, Edmodo or Blogger, to display and get students to comment on each other's work? Zalime has tried Edmodo. Edmodo seems to be quite popular, doesn't it, with educators? All right, so how much time do we have left? Only about 5 minutes. So here's a quick summary of the process framework. Now this again is on the handout, which I'll share at the end. So don't get too anxious about noting it down. So the first thing is a lead in to get students interested in the theme of the lesson. Then we have brainstorming, which means thinking of everything we can about the topic. Brainstorming vocabulary mainly, wasn't it? It's nouns, adjectives, adverbs, and so on. Then there's planning, which is organizing our ideas. We have writing a draft. A draft is a borrador, right? A piece of writing not yet finished and may be changed. Number 5 is editing, correcting and improving the text. Number 6, producing another draft. Could be the final version or not. This may be. And 7 would be publication. You could use a blog or a virtual learning environment, VLE, to enable students to read and evaluate each other's work. Okay, quickly. One of the things that teachers often struggle with is identifying an effective writing task, right? So can anyone say, does this look like an effective writing task to you? Write 10 sentences about your favorite musician. Celeste says no. Mary Carmen says, of course. Do you mean of course not? Lucero, yes. Alma, no. Depends on the level. Right. So what's the issue here with these 10 sentences? Well, is this a realistic writing task, do you think? 10 sentences. Who writes 10 sentences about your favorite musician, right? Also, they're not connected together, are they? So you're not actually developing the writing skill of cohesion and coherence, which cohesion is all about the use of like linking words to make the text stick together, and coherence is all about making ideas flow. So the ideas flow or link together in a joined up text, right? Mary Carmen says it's a realistic task for A1 teenagers. Is it though? I mean, is that really realistic? When do teenagers actually write 10 sentences about their favorite musician? So we need to think about something more effective. Would be like this: write a review of your favorite singer's new album for a blog post. Write an email to your friend convincing him or her to listen to your favorite band. Write a fan letter to your favorite musician. Write an opinion piece for the newspaper asking the city to sponsor a concert by your favorite singer. A lower level task might be just a simple Instagram caption for a photo of you at the last concert you attended, right? That's pretty realistic, wouldn't you say? All right, so we've got about 1 minute left. Here's just a quick summary, some general considerations for writing lessons. So selecting the task, make sure it's relevant for students. It should be creative if possible, rather than mechanical, within the student's abilities. When you're setting up the task, students need to know who they're writing to, why they're writing, how they are writing, what's the input or structure. So provide a motivating template or handout to write on. How long they have to write for. So how many words? Also, who's going to evaluate it? Is it going to be you or is it going to be their peers? Monitoring. Provide support in class. Help with vocabulary. when correcting, elicit from the students. So get them to self-correct. Feedback. When you're giving feedback, respond to their ideas or content first before you look at the language issues. If possible, get them to give feedback to each other, peer evaluation, but always give feedback. Otherwise, how can you complete the learning cycle? Right? That's where often the most important learning occurs is in the feedback. Right? So, thank you very much for your attention. Do we have any questions? I'll share with you the handout.
All right. So thank you, Andrew. And I thought, yeah, thank you. I think people are saying they love the session because there were so Gabriela, you know, Blanca, great, awesome, fantastic. So don't go.
Maybe a bit too much, right?
Never too much.
No. Yeah.
Okay, there's the handout. Just popped it in the. So there's always a handout, right, to support them. That's I think they'll find less confusion that way.
I think they love. Yeah, I think they love the handout, Andrew. Thank you very much. Maybe you could post it again because there are so many thank yous
right. Okay, yes,
that now the link to the handout, you know, ended up like 2 meters like up. Yeah. So there you go. So thank you for that, Andrew. I thought they found it really helpful, you know, very clear, you know, people are saying excellent, very useful. So don't go. We have some questions, you know, people are asking still questions in the Q&A. So just like Andrew said, if you have any questions, now that you have so many ideas, maybe like think about what questions you'd like to ask, go to the Q&A section, because we're not done, right? We still have like 15-20 more minutes, and Andrew is going to read your questions, and then he's going to come back at the end, you know, to answer those questions. We always give the speakers some time to read the questions and then come back, you know, with the answers, because sometimes some of these questions require some extra thinking.
Right.
And now, yeah, so and now I would like to introduce you to Marta. I think I've already introduced before, Marta, but how about if you introduce yourself, tell us something about what you're here to talk about, you know, Marta.
Thank you, Orlando, and thank you, Andrew. Thanks again for sharing with us, and I always learn so much in your sessions. Espero
Good to see you again as well.
Yeah, good to see you again.
When was it? November?
Yeah, and in
December,
Cancún. It was in Cancún. Y bueno, hola a todos. Espero que también haya sido una sesión muy enriquecedora para todos. Y como les decía Orlando, no se vayan todavía, vamos a pasar a la sesión de preguntas y respuestas. Y he estado muy atenta, pero también he visto que somos más de 250 maestros esta tarde, capacitándonos para ser mejores en nuestras clases, con nuestros alumnos, incluso si somos coordinadores con nuestros maestros. ¿Y saben qué significa que estemos todos hoy aquí? Significa that we care. We care about education and we care about Mexico, nuestro país. Y es por eso que nosotros en International House México, siendo parte de esta gran red de escuelas, de 160 escuelas en más de 52 países, y bueno, siendo pioneros porque nos dedicamos a la formación de maestros, al teacher training desde hace 67 años, yo creo que hemos tocado vidas, ¿verdad, Orlando? No me dejará mentir, de casi 6,000 maestros. Nos emociona mucho compartirles la creación y el nacimiento de nuestra propia universidad. Es International House University. Es la primera universidad diseñada para maestros de idiomas. Y ustedes dirán, porque no puedo leer mentes, pero estoy segura que ustedes dirán, pero si ya somos maestros. Sí, pero déjenme decirles que, y yo creo que todos pensamos igual, nuestra profesión es una profesión que nunca termina. Nunca terminamos de aprender, de formarnos. Y aparte, incluso es de lo más versátil. Tenemos tantas posibilidades como maestros que a veces ni lo visualizamos, pero eso es lo que nosotros hemos hecho. En International House University hemos diseñado todo tipo de programas para todo tipo de necesidades para los maestros. Voy a decir así como una lista que he pensado de por qué podría servirles la universidad, a ver si se encuentran en esta lista y ya saben dónde empezar su próxima aventura. En International House University tenemos programas para aquellos que buscamos herramientas perfectas para nuestras clases, para que nuestras clases sean exitosas, para que nuestros alumnos salgan y digan, aprendí. También hay programas para aquellos que quieren conseguir un mejor trabajo, tener mejor sueldo, tener una mejor vida, porque a eso hay que aspirar. También hay programas para aquellos que a lo mejor quieren cambiar de giro. Y bueno, he sido toda mi vida maestro de inglés y ¿por qué no ahora soy maestro de español para extranjeros? El español es mi primera lengua. Les confieso que así cambié de giro yo, pero bueno, es una historia muy larga. También incluso si quieren trabajar en otro país como maestros tanto de inglés como de español para extranjeros, toman un diplomado internacional en la enseñanza de español como lengua extranjera y tienen pasaporte a otro país, a un mejor trabajo, a ganar mucho más dinero, verdaderamente a un mejor futuro. Y bueno, la lista no termina, la verdad es que venía pensando en miles de posibilidades, pero bueno, pueden ver toda la información en nuestra web. ¿Saben cuántas veces he escuchado? Es que a mí no se me da bien el inglés. O es que yo de idiomas no se me dan. Y yo me digo, así, para mí misma, ¿qué habrá pasado con el maestro que ha tenido? Qué lástima. Y no es crítica, pero un buen maestro hace que el alumno aprenda. Y a eso es a lo que nos dedicamos nosotros, a formar a los mejores maestros. Y sí, ser maestros de inglés, de español, incluso de matemáticas, porque ser un buen maestro de matemáticas también requiere mucha técnica, incluso puede servir para eso estos diplomados, o de historia. Y sí, ser maestro es una gran responsabilidad, pero Vic, y yo no sé ustedes, pero yo no cambiaría esta misión de vida por nada. Les deseo muchísimo éxito en todo lo que vayan a hacer y los aliento a que se reten a ser mejores profesores cada día, porque yo digo que sí vale la pena, ¿verdad, Orlando?
Absolutamente. Can you hear me? ¿Me escuchan?
Sí.
Perfecto. So, thank you very much, Marta.
Thank you for having me.
No, muchas gracias. Y creo que es parte de lo que hacemos, ¿no? Exactamente, Marta. Creo que ayudamos a la gente a cumplir sueños y ayudamos a nuestra comunidad a ser simplemente el mejor profesional que puede, ¿no?
O sea,
Y
si a
eso
mí
es parte de la...
si a mí alguien me hubiera dicho que hace, no voy a decir años, pero que hace muchos años mi vida iba a cambiar por International House, no me lo hubiera creído. Y el giro que dio, o sea, de un doctorado en italianística a ser directora de International House en Quintana Roo es un giro. Y habiendo pasado por miles de países enseñando y entrando en las primeras filas, porque tener un diplomado como el que tenía de International House te da entrada a las mejores instituciones y te da realmente pase VIP. Yo diría que es un VIP, ¿no?
Creo que eso es lo que tratamos de hacer en International House, ¿no? Creo que tratamos de ayudar a la gente y simplemente cambiarle vidas. Creo que es eso lo que acaba de decir, ¿no? Cambiar vidas.
Exacto.
All right. So thank you very much for being here, Marta. Thank you very much.
Siempre. Always a pleasure.
Always
Bye,
a pleasure.
Andrew. Hope to see you soon.
Yes, hope so.
Hasta luego a todos. Gracias.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So thank you, Marta. So again, thank you, guys, for saying. And so before we go back to Andrew, Again, you know, people are asking questions. People are asking questions here in the Q&A. So yes, remember to keep asking questions. We're going to come back to Andrew in a second so that he could share those answers. He was already working on those answers. But people have been asking us quite often about the licenciatura, right? I think that there were several people that were asking us about the licenciatura that we're going to be launching, you know, through International House University. And so I wanted to spend a couple of minutes today, but to clarify some questions and also to, you know, like clarify, you know, like some of the information and the mapa curricular, you know, like the subjects, because people, you know, keep sending emails. And you know, there's a bunch of emails that we still need to reply back to because we haven't had the time to do that, but we will reply back to those. But we thought that, you know, just talking about that today, you know, will be helpful. So let me just share my screen so that I can go over this. And, you know, feel free, as again, you know, it's just going to be like quick 5 minutes. So take advantage of this time. So if you have any questions, I'm going to be reading the chat. So if you want to ask questions in the chat on the licenciatura, I'll be answering this in real time right now. So, you know, feel free to do that, right? So again, you know, we are offering licenciatura en enseñanza de aprendizaje del idioma inglés. This is one of the first programs that we are launching the university with. You know, this is kind of like our baby, right? Moving forward, and we're going to be launching this in October, which is when you know, like degrees and university studies normally start. So that's your school year in October. And so what makes this program different? What makes this program different is that we've also got to sorry, to integrate this licenciatura with also a Cambridge assessment English program, right? So what you're getting in this program is basically a syllabus that will allow you to, by the end of the program, you know, to get recognition, you know, at both national level, you know, through CEP, so like Secretaría de Educación Pública, and also, you know, through Cambridge assessment English, you know, as part of, you know, this kind of like dual validity, you know, that the program will have this licenciatura, right? And also the certificate that you're getting, you know, through Cambridge Assessment English is also, of course, accepted as an International House World Organization certificate. So this is one of the key differentiators and one of the key things about this program, because what's going to happen is you'll be getting a program that, you know, is fully recognized, you know, like both nationwide, you know, like both nationally through the Ministry of Education, but also, you know, through the International House World Organization Network Schools, and of course, you know, through Cambridge Assessment English, right? So the program is completely online. What that means is that basically, you know, it's you know, you can pretty much work at your own pace. So the way we do it is, again, remember that with the university now, this new launch of the university, International House University, we are going to be creating, you know, very flexible programs that are going to allow people, you know, to take this even from the comfort of the house, you know, this new normalidad, this new reality, and this is going to be completely online. You could connect, you know, at any point during the week, from Monday to Friday, and in our, you know, incredibly user-friendly platform. It's you know, very flexible. It's Neo. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with Neo. This is you know, language, an LMS, you know, language management system, you know, created by some pioneers in San Francisco. We've been in touch with them. We have been using this for our university. We have our own app on Google Store or on like Android Store. So it's extremely flexible. It's pretty much like learning on the go, right? And you get in videos, you get in forums, you're getting interactive tasks, you're getting a bunch of different things. And the idea is that people can take the component online, from Monday to Friday, and then Saturdays, that's where we're going to run live sessions, like again, this is a licenciatura ejecutiva, so that means you would most likely be working in the week. So we just want to make the program, be super flexible. How much time does it last? Alejandro's asking. Well, like that's one of the things about this program. The program is only actually a year, right? We are dividing the program into trimesters, into trimesters, and we have 4 trimesters. So that's basically an entire school year. It's just 1 year, but it's quite full on, it's very complete, in relation to the input that you're getting. You're getting everything, from like theories of language learning, linguistic needs, analyzing your students' needs, up to, things like discourse analysis of text and lexis, grammar, evaluation, assessment. There's also, quite an important component on educational technologies. Again, this new normalidad is asking people to work from home and devise things from home, and use different tools. So that's also part of the program, right? This is the program that you got, and of course, we've got the usual thing on any licenciatura, right? There's the famous seminario de tesis. And of course, the investigación académica, right? And this is also because, as you will know, any proceso de licenciatura, needs to have that important element, of research, and that's where you're going to be able to show your academic understanding of what you've learned from the course. So there's going to be that, seminario de investigación, seminario de tesis. And the idea is that, within a year, you get all of this input, all of this program and content, so that then, you finish as a licenciado, but titulado, right? Because remember that there are many licenciados out there who didn't finish the proceso de titulación, and they don't really have a cédula profesional. So of course, we don't want that to happen. We want to make sure that all of you go through the proceso de titulación, and that you are very successful, licenciados, right? That you are actually benefiting from this program, and that you are enjoying the content that we have prepared for you, right? So so this is a program. People have been asking me about the perfil de ingreso, so I thought we could also talk about that. What's that? Well, like basically this is what we need, to make sure that you are up to standard for the course, for the program, the licenciatura. We need to make sure that you have, this is a program for people with experience, right? So we need to make sure that you have at least 2 years. And of course, through a screening process, we'll make sure that you have a range of different experience in different contexts, right? Mari Carmen is asking, what's the degree you finish with? It's licenciado en enseñanza de lengua del inglés, right? So that's the degree that you're getting, licenciado en enseñanza de lengua inglesa o del inglés, right? So that's what you gain. And what could you do with this? Well, you could do a bunch of things. Remember, and this is also where professionalism comes into place. Like there are many people that would like to start a career in teach training, like course book writing, like director studies, etc., etc., etc. Ingrid is asking, well, yeah, a licenciatura is a BA. Ingrid, yeah, exactly. So a licenciatura is a BA. It's the first degree. So we're talking about first degree here, exactly. So it's a first degree. It's 1 year. Of course, we're asking people to have an English level that is enough, to get through the content of the course successfully, which is B2 level of English. It would be great if it's C1, Maria. I think that would be great. I think that would be awesome. But at least, a strong B2, that's what we're asking. When does it start? It starts in October. We're going to be starting October the 24th, if I'm not mistaken. So it's like towards the final week of October. And of course you have to be 18, right? Or above. How much time do you have to enroll? So you have around from here to October, I guess, because we are starting in October. Actually, we might get started in September with a propedéutico. You know, there are some people that would like to also get on the course, on the licenciatura, but just like any other, you know, BA programs, we offer a propedéutico for people that maybe are not quite yet to the BA level, and, you know, we'll simply like to make sure that they are successful in the licenciatura program. So we might actually start in September. So I will try to enroll ASAP. Okay, people are asking, do we have to take an exam? The proceso de titulación has 2 steps. So there's going to be, by the end of the last trimester, we are going to have you take, so it's 2 things that you have to submit. You have to submit, well, basically you have to sit an exam that, you know, hopefully will show that you are, you know, like up to the standard, you know, this BA program, that you have benefited from, you know, what you've been getting on the course, on the program, on the licenciatura program. And then, you know, this is followed by your dissertation, you know, this is like by your tesina, right? Which is a topic we're going to assign you, you develop that, and that's where the Seminario de Tesis and the Seminario de Investigación come into place, right? So this is why we are giving you these different subjects, right? Because at some point you have to show that. And then, you know, you'll be a licenciado, right? Then we have, okay, people are talking about months of tuition pay. Okay, so, okay, because I think this is important to clarify. So the tuition is, so I'm gonna type the information. It's 5,000 for the monthly tuition fee, and then you have 5,000 registration, like by semester, the what we call the inscripción, right? This is the semester. So answering your question, Ingrid, is like, how many months do you pay of tuition? Like the tuition is 12 months. So this is coming down to 60,000 MX. Yes, 60,000, that's right. Plus the 10,000 of inscripción, because it's by semester, right? So about like annual, it would be 10,000. Well, you have the examen profesional, right? So that's the examen that you are sitting and the dissertation. So it's those 2 things that you need to go through at the end of your quadrimestre. Trimestre. Yeah, that's right. The proceso de titulación, just like any other BA, like if you go to like Ibero, if you go to Tech, if you go to like UVM, all of that, that is on top of the like the regular monthly tuition, of course, because there are some fees to pay. We need to like double check. I need to double check that with finance and accounting, but I think it's around like the proceso. I think the proceso de titulación, it's around 20,000. So the whole program would be like around, I think, 80,000-90,000. But bear in mind that this is one complete like licenciatura. If you go to other places, I'm pretty sure the licenciatura would be, I mean, like for starters, like most licenciaturas are 3 years, right? It's not 4. So just multiply that X number of months, and that would be crazy expensive. We could, yeah, we also do CENIS exams, and we also, that's also included in this program, Montse. If you go to our website, you'll see that there is a note that reads that this is actually the CENIS included in the program. So it's already part of the curriculum. So it's there already, Montserrat. Marta is asking, I think, one of the most important questions. Any scholarships? Yes, Marta. We do offer scholarships with, if you are a quality circle school, I think we offer anything. I'll have to double check again with finance. But if you get in touch with your, IH advisor, IH consultant, they will be better able to give you the percentage. But I think it's anything between 15 and 20 or 25% discount on this program for licenciatura. So I would just double check with your IH advisor for that, but I think it's around that. So I mean, it's quite, I mean, nobody gives away like 18,000 pesos, right? So the only opening date for this degree is October. No, Giovanni, we are starting in October, but we're going to have, just like any other degree, we are opening twice a year. So this is going to open twice a year, and it's going to be in fall, in autumn, so like October, and also in spring, so potentially March. So there's going to be a March, October every year that we're going to have openings. Will you open this next year? Yes, March, Monica. Is there a limit of students? We want to keep it like to, so we want to keep, because the program is going to be fully online, we can cater to more people, but for the live online sessions, there's only so many we can handle. So we're going to keep those quite short in size, but there is actually no limit in terms of the first generation, second generation, because we are going to run the program fully online. So there you go, right? Seni, I don't know, Monse. Solo Seni, I don't know, because this is part of the program already. So I'm not sure we're actually doing that separately. It's included in the Mapa Curricular for this program. So yeah, all righty. So yeah, I think those were all the questions, I guess. But so there you go. People were asking about this, so I just want to spend a couple more minutes talking about this. It's a really good program, guys. If you want to start this October, I would highly recommend that you get in touch with us. What was your question, Gabriela? Give me a second. Wait a second. I have to go up to see, because Gabriela is saying at the end of the course. Yeah, you have to sit an exam, Gabriela. Like, again, you have to sit like the final exam, and then the licencia, sorry, you have to sit the exam, and then you have to present your dissertation, right? So you do have to. So again, two things, right? So so at the end of trimester, the final trimester, the cuarto trimestre, you do have to sit an examination, right? Because that's kind of that's like an official requirement that we need to get, from STEP, to make sure that you are actually complying with the national requirements, for accreditation through SEP, right? So that's happening, and then you need the final dissertation. Are they the same or different? They are okay. Oh, I see what your question is. They are same, because it's also like a Secretaría de Educación, right? So we need to make sure it's all standardized. So this is not okay. So this is not an internal exam like a Patito IH exam. This is something like formal, right? That we need to make sure that goes through the Ministry of Education. So that's so we need to make sure that you do that, because otherwise you wouldn't have a cédula profesional, guys. So we need to make sure that you see that, right? Sylvia, that's okay. Off you go. We'll be sending the recordings later. All right. So I don't want to keep you more here, I guess. Andrew, is it okay if we go back to your Q's and A's?
Yes. I've answered the specific questions in writing, but we could just pull out a couple, shall we?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
so Maria Adriana says, with elementary learners, young learners, what do you suggest? Well, not so much long text, but they might need to copy letter shapes to practice handwriting, because you don't actually, maybe they're not well developed with writing in their first language sometimes. You might have to develop knowledge of vocabulary and spelling and practice sentence structures. So keep it simple. Ingrid says, can Cambridge Writing Improved be used with small kids? I think it's mainly for adults or young adults, but it does have tasks for beginners. So perhaps you could, small kids, maybe not first grade. You could look for tasks in a good course book, such as the Kids Box series, or look at young learner exam rubrics, starters, movers, and flyers from Cambridge. They often have good writing tasks if you want to think about exams. How can I work writing with first graders? There were some great ideas in Brewster and Ellis's The Primary English Teacher's Guide. I'd really recommend that as a starting point. If you can't get hold of it, I think there's stuff online, and by those two authors. Gail Ellis is very good at this area, so you could Google her. But basically, give them lots of scaffolding, lots of support with their writing. You can use like visual organizers to get their ideas organized before they start writing. I think that's the main thing. Give me some tips to work with journal with fourth graders, please. I think Harmer's How to Teach, no, not How to Teach English, but How to Teach Writing in the Pearson series has some ideas about journals specifically. And he does recommend those. Those are a good idea. It's a good way of getting them into the habit of writing in English frequently. Espectador Anonimo says, what happened to me during the lockdown? I didn't have a lot of time to work on my students' writing skills. Again, you could try something with like Write and Improve. Try one of the tasks there, because they can do it on their own. It doesn't require you to be there as a teacher. You could get them to send what they wrote to you as well. He says, the same person, Espectador, says, a lot of time students only tend to focus on the speaking part. How do you suggest we motivate them when it comes to the writing or part or learning English? Yeah, realistic and motivating writing tasks are important, not just like grammar exercises. So we saw some examples in the presentation, things like in something as simple as an Instagram caption, right, can be motivating. And it's realistic because that's what students will use their English for. I think that's the main thing.
Cool, fantastic. Yeah, no, I think you answered all of the questions, and Ingrid saying, thank you for getting back to the Q&As, and it's always a nice time to interact with you guys, and talk about what concerns you might have, in your classes, your teaching. And so, Andrew, I think you did a terrific job today. I think thank you, Andrew, for joining us today.
Well, thank you for being a brilliant audience.
I think they were brilliant, and they were so something I would like to especially thank Andrew for was, he did two things today. Like he, of course, helped you with like introducing new approaches, the approaches that might be new to you, maybe, like the product approach and the general approach, the process writing, but also, something that I really liked, and I'm pretty sure we all appreciated, was the fact that he demonstrated how to do this online, right? So we used, a couple of things today. We use Google Forms to engage learners with writing, Google Docs for actual activities with writing, and also Jamboard, which I think is such an awesome thing to do, with kids, or any kind of learners, right? So I hope that you enjoyed the session today, everyone. Fantastic. Thank you, Antonietta. Thank you, Rosa. Remember that we do have one more webinar. So I'm just gonna make sure that when this webinar is taking place. So This webinar is taking place on well, it's tomorrow actually. There you go. That's so we've done all of those webinars, and tomorrow I'll get to spend some time with you guys. So I'll be doing vocabulary. I'll be exploring some of what Andrew used today. I'll be talking about Jamboard as well, but for vocabulary purposes. And it's also going to be quite interactive. So if you haven't joined, registered, I highly recommend that you do. Again, we only have so many places. So I'm gonna copy paste the link here there we go. That's the link. So register now. We're going to be confirming places, later tonight or tomorrow morning. So stay tuned, because we're closing that registration tomorrow at 1 p.m. So please make sure you register if you haven't registered. And as always, see you tomorrow, guys. And I guess that's all for today, right? Lovely to have spent some time with you. Oh, is it invalid? Is that what it says, Viridiana, that the link is invalid? Okay, let me just then quickly. Oh, that's right. You're so right. Sorry. I gave you the wrong link. Sorry about that. You're so right. So let me just copy paste this and send it again. Sorry about that. So this is what happens when you have too many things online, and doing so many things at the same time. All right, that's the right link, guys. Can you try it? And if anybody could say yes, it works. Okay, that's perfect, fantastic. Okay, so thank you, guys. So that's all from us, right? Today. Thank you once again, Andrew. Thank you once again, Marta. Okay. Yeah, and I guess we'll have you back, for the next round of webinars, right?
Count on it.
Fantastic. If remember that we're sending surveys. If you haven't received the feedback, the link to the survey for feedback on the previous one, email me, and I'll send you the direct link to the survey, for feedback, because we want to hear your feedback. Okay. So remember, write to me at ttmx@ihmexico.com, and I'll help you with the link to the survey directly. Okay. Thank you, guys. Lovely to see you. Lovely to have worked with you today. And good evening, Andrew. Enjoy, have fun in lockdown. Marta, the same. Disfruta tu confinamiento.
Enjoy the confinamiento.
Enjoy the confinamiento en esta nueva normalidad.
I've been venturing out to do IELTS exams.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, but with wearing a mask and everything.
Oh, yeah,
right?
with like plastic perspex things.
Personal
protective equipment on.
Exactly, como el niño de la burbuja con John Travolta.
Exactly.
Exactly.
All right, team.
All right.
So thank you guys. Stay well. Take care. Bye bye.
Que descansen.
Que descansen. Bye.
Bye.
And Eugenia, send me an email and I'll send you the survey link. Okay. Bye bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.